So, like, looking around, I really like the vibe of this place. I like the boxes, I like the ammo, and I definitely like the intestinal chandeliers. A lot to offer here. You guys are doing a great job. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Design Show. I'm Derek. That's Noah. Just kidding. This is a bite up, and we're talking about The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4.
Oh, it's 4.
4.
I don't know why I skipped ahead an episode.
I just thought you were waving magically.
No, I was going to do that, but whatever. Ignore a finger. Ooh, we're in Seattle fully.
Ignore a finger.
Ignore a finger that I put up. I've never said that to him before.
This is rated R. I think NC-17.
But so we're in Seattle for the first time. First full day in Seattle. We have a lot to talk about. Before we get into it, as always, make sure you're subscribed, following. You can see our pretty faces on Spotify or YouTube, whichever one you prefer. Or if you just want to listen to our sultry voices talk about fingers and decor, keep on doing what you're doing.
I have a very sultry voice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Spoilers ahead. I have officially, I'm going to try to save game spoilers for the end. If I just got to get it out, I will double spoil it, right? I will put sirens, I will put stuff on the screen. You will know another spoiler for the game is coming, but general blanket spoiler for the show of The Last of Us.
I think that was very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Yeah. Spoilers. Okay.
Let us officially take a bite of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1, written by Neil Druckmann and directed by Kate Herron. A new enemy appears in the form of Isaac, the leader of the WLF. Seattle leaves Ellie and Dina with a less than positive first impression as they realize they have walked into the middle of a war. Infected are woken, secrets are shared, and love is made.
Woke? Wow.
That's right. Woke Seattle. They have rainbows. That's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you think?
Oh, off the top of my noodle, I feel like it was a better episode than last week. I still like last week. I'm liking the progression we're getting. This episode very much was like there are secrets that both of our main characters at the moment have, and it was a way for them to finally get them off of their chests in whatever way. I like that a lot, and I like that we're still getting the same beats of their relationship from the game, just kind of in a different way. Like it's just showing it, and the things that are happening are just happening differently, but they're at the same point, I would say, in the game. So that does make me very happy. And we got to see one of my favorite like scenes from the entire game series in this episode. So I'm quite happy with what we got.
All right. Yeah, I think that this episode really did a lot to further our plot along. We are so solidly with Ellie and Dina now that I feel like this is season 2, and really the feeling of it being like the game. I mean, I've watched you play the game, just the scenes of them chatting when they're on Shimmer. It just feels so much like you're watching a live action version of the game at this point. And I think, we have a brand new enemy here. And so that leads to a lot of nervous feelings going forward.
Yeah, I think a good place to start for this episode is maybe to talk about Isaac. Just because there's a lot of Isaac in this episode that I don't think I was expecting. They do a really good job with dialogue, in literal dialogue, and also just how a conversation plays out with the camera. When we see Isaac in the past for the first time, they purposely don't show him, which I really like. So we get to see inside this Fedra truck, right? And there's Josh Peck, of all people. Hi. Obviously seems like the popular guy in this group or whatever. And then we have the green person that's just trying to fit along and kind of just be with the banter. And when it finally reveals Isaac in that, I was like, oh, that was excellent storytelling. One, hiding him because fans of the game know who he is, but also just Jeffrey Wright, just seeing him show up in another HBO show, but we love to see him. But just that deafening silence whenever they ask like what voter means, like why do we call him voter? And then Jeffrey Wright telling him it's because we took away their right to vote. Chilling stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting as far as this character of Isaac. Well, first of all, like you said, I mean, Jeffrey Wright is just an incredible actor. He can kind of do anything. And so to have him appear in this is really exciting. He brings such a solidity to this character and immediately commands the attention of everyone, both the cast and the viewer of the show. He just has such presence on screen. And I think the moment you hear his voice, you are listening to him. And so what he does that's really interesting, I think really shows who this character is going to become. Of he's sitting with these fellow Fedra soldiers, but he immediately is kind of pushing back at the banter, pushing back at what they're saying. And so I think that really sets up who this character is.
And I mean, yeah, I think he does push back, but it also feels like he is already very sure in what he's about to do. And so he's just over it, right? This episode does a good job and also worries me. There's two things that are happening in this episode that I like, but also are worrying. Is we see Isaac. The whole point of this flashback is to show Isaac leaving Fedra because he's fed up with Fedra and to join the wolves, right? And to then later lead the wolves and everything. But so he left that because he felt like Fedra was being oppressive to the people, but now, and being violent and everything to the people. And now we see the wolves doing the same thing to what they call the Seraphites scars, but also the Seraphites are doing the same thing to them. So as we've talked about in this journey now for season 2 is very much about the cycle of violence. We have Abby and Ellie. Joel's cycle of violence led to his ultimate demise. But being in this, so we're getting like a secondary cycle of violence almost. And it only worries me that is it going to be played out a little too much? Because we're seeing the same cycle happen. And I want them to, whenever they get to the Abby stuff and the Ellie stuff, for it to feel a little fresher and more gut punchy than okay, we've been kind of seeing this. So that does worry me. I have high hopes. It's a theme, but we're sitting with it in the show. So, and we have a whole nother season that's planned. So how long is this going to be stretched out?
Yes, we as humans are very flawed and continue to do the same things over and over again.
Well, it's all about tribalism, right?
Totally, yeah.
That's what this entire, that's the infected aren't the worst thing. It's the tribalism that humans do.
And, there's part of me that thinks about this is just one city, right? So it's things like this could be playing out all over the country. And so instead of coming together in times of scarcity, of course, we're going to be fighting and pushing our own beliefs onto other groups of people. But, I do wonder, in the fact that this is going to be, there is another season, there is going to be a season 3, and yet we only have the 2 games to pull from. It does seem like they are going to need to flesh out some of these things a little more. So, having this introduction of this Hanrahan character who is played by Alana Ubach, who, if you don't know, is just an incredible actor. Oh my gosh. I've loved Alana Ubach since she was on Beekman's World, which was ages and ages and ages ago. And she just has done stellar work throughout her whole career, popping up all over the place. But I feel like we're going to have to dig into that, right? So it feels like he's joining forces with this person, but then when we meet him sort of in the present timeline, he's the leader. What happened to Hanrahan? Is she gone? Did he kill her? Did he double cross her like he double crossed the Fedra agents? So, I just think that this kind of secondary cycle of violence is really to pad the season, to fulfill, extra plot points.
Yeah. I mean, we have gotten, I would say the first couple episodes we've gotten, the whole first episode and then really the episode after Joel's death, those don't exist in the games. So as long as they keep doing that, we'll be fine. Just these similar themes that are going on, because we got it in the town hall as well. We got, just seeing how communities and things are structured around what it means to go after justice, what it means to get revenge and everything. So it's I don't know. It just seemed a little heavy-handed on that. So I wish we would just have a little more I don't know, let's just see how it plays out instead of being guys, by the way, we're on this path of revenge. Yeah, we all want to freaking get justice for Pedro Pascal not being in the show.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just to show how evil and despicable he is, right?
Yeah. But we see it on both sides, right? And I think this episode did a good job of showing Isaac being absolutely terrifying when we finally see who he's talking to in that kitchen. And it's a Seraphite member, just completely nude, obviously been tortured and beat up. And the conversations that they have is showing that, right? They say these same exact things to each other. one says you kill kids, one says you harm kids. It's the same thing, but they're saying it to each other on just different sides of the fence. And I think it is frustrating for us as a viewer, is just being like, stop it. Like, just get along. Come on.
I know, but it almost seems like we want that, but dang, that's not reality, is it? And so it's just this horrible conversation. You're right. Again, it's another cycle. It's saying the same thing back and forth. I guess the question is, how long are we going to have to sit in all this? Like, are we going to have to keep watching this back and forth between the wolves and the Seraphites, and then just throw Ellie and Dina in there just for fun?
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, well, because we're seeing what Ellie and Dina are walking into.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own mission. Abby set out on her own mission, but there's communities, and there is, unfortunately, also just war happening between these two, and that's what they're walking into.
Yeah. I think that was a question I had at the beginning of the season, is like, the first season really felt geared towards bringing this young person who is immune to this to find a cure. But now that seems like that's not an option anymore. So what is this world? Guess it's just
now we're seeing
strife.
Right. But I think now we're seeing the world. And I think what they did originally in the game and in the show, and just the story in general, what the beautiful thing that they did was that they showed the beginning of it, and they showed you, oh, there's hope. Like, somebody's immune. And then when we don't get that, then what does this story hold? And it's like, oh, now we actually get to know about the world, the greater world, because we didn't really get to see too much of it in the first game and in the first season. So now that we're seeing it, it sucks.
Yeah, it's incredibly brutal.
But I really liked this scene in this kitchen. We have Isaac's character talking about the pans that he wanted, but he finally got them, just in not the way he probably wanted. But then to see the Seraphite person just completely be overly like, nope, I'm ride or die with my cause and with the prophet and everything that they say. Like, you are not going to be able to get this out of me.
Mm-hmm.
You can burn me. And then when he turned around, he already had his hand up. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. Like, that was badass. It was hard as fuck, but it was awesome.
Yeah. And in that scene, it really feels like you're more on the Seraphites side, right? And kind of, they seem like they have kind of taken a step back from what's normal in society, in the sense of like, they're just using bows and arrows and simple things like that. Whereas like, this is just WLF is just a military, right?
I'm excited for you to see more of these two groups. I will not talk about them outside of what we see in the show, because I think it's a disservice to even tell you, because you haven't seen it. I'm not going to spoil it for you, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. But I like how they're interpreting these characters on TV and what we're seeing. But speaking of, I guess, the threats, right? So we have Isaac, we saw him in the past and the present. I love when the show does that, when it shows like, kind of rewinds a little bit to then show you how it is in the present, or like what led to that moment. I think they do a very strong past and present in this series. But so we're in Seattle, right? And we get the title card Seattle Day One, which is very much, it's literally from the game. Like, you go into Seattle, it's Seattle Day One, and every day it shows that title card. So I'm curious if in the next couple episodes, if it's going to say Day 2, Day 3. So what do you think about Seattle, and how it looks and how it feels and the dangers that they walk into?
Yeah, well, Seattle is a mess for sure. And I think that, that's obviously an understatement. And one of the interesting things is that these two groups are existing in this city, but are on polar opposite ends of everything. And, when Ellie and Dina are kind of running through the city, it's so interesting to me that WLF has this whole place mapped out. Right. They know where each crack and crevice leads to. And while it looks so lush and green and beautiful on the outside, it seems like really on the inside, it's a hellhole and a trap.
Yeah. I liked, there's specific moments in this episode that are pulled verbatim from the game, when they go and see that tank, and the whole conversation with the astronauts and everything, and seeing the pride flags and all of that, that's literally from the game. And I love that they kept those small little moments in there, because those in-between moments in the game of those action sequences are when you learn more about those characters, when you actually get to feel for those characters. And that's playing the same, I guess, role and specific need in the show as well. And so we get to see like, oh, when did Ellie learn about space? Like, when did she learn about that? Maybe we'll find out. But it's showing that like they are very much invested in each other and learning about it. You can kind of see the scars, not just from the bombing from when the infection started, but just with the wolves and Fedra. And then we got to see the scars and wolves. So it's like there's a lot of history here. And again, these girls are just, they're in over their heads, I think. And it's only going to get worse from here.
I mean, they're two people, right? And they're young. And although they have spirit, that can only get you so far. And I really am worried for them here. But along the lines of what you were saying about kind of like when they learned about certain things, I was actually surprised that they didn't realize what the rainbow flags were for, especially when you have Seth, using hate language. You would wish that there was like someone teaching them about pride and about coming together. But I guess in the apocalypse, you can only focus on so much.
Yeah, this series has an interesting relationship with queerness. In the first season, we got the Bill and Frank episode. We got to see these two men that are very much men and probably weren't able to show who they really loved or act on that. And they found each other and were able to live this long, beautiful life. And then we also find out in this episode that like Dina had talked to her mother, I believe she said, and she's like, I like girls and boys. And her mother was very much like, you like boys. So it was very much like her bisexuality was being erased from her. And that's what she saw. And we have Seth, we have bigotry, and we have homophobia in here, but like there's no gay person like having pride anywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Like there's no Pride Month in Jackson.
There's got to be an LGBT center at least.
Yeah, right.
Something.
Yeah, so it is sad in thinking that maybe they just haven't had time. Maybe like there is hardly any queer people. It's nice that these two queer people have found each other, but what does that say? Maybe society isn't at the moment of like, let's celebrate things yet, or let's talk about these things. Who knows what else they're not being told? But I don't know. It is kind of sad when they're like, oh, there goes Happy Rainbow Town. Like now we're in the shit.
Like, no, that's for you. You should know about that. But I mean, as we've been saying, looking at society as a whole, what The Last of Us is showing us is that we just go down to primal nonsense.
Yeah, and speaking of both of them having each other, both of them have secrets that they're keeping from each other. That thing that I was talking about, my favorite scene from the entire series, there's two, and they both just happen to have a guitar in them. We still haven't seen one of them. But Ellie playing Take On Me for Dina, pulled directly from the game. I love that we got to sit with this moment. We got to hear Bella Ramsey sing the entire song. I think it was just absolutely beautiful. I would be lying if I didn't say I was teary and I was on the verge of crying. Just because it's just so beautiful that you have, again, all this terribleness, but then we're sitting with these two characters and, oh my God, like Dina, the Izzy's acting in this particular scene is telling so much without literally saying anything. We know after watching it, she had the secret, but also we can see that this is the moment that she's like, this is my person. Like, this is the person I want to be with. But she's also able to just be in this moment, and so is Ellie. Ellie's being able to express herself in this way that she's very visibly not just going into the square in Jackson and playing the guitar. So like, how often is she playing this? And then, layer on the cake, right? This is just such a beautiful way to remind us and have a memory of Joel in this. And she even asked, did Joel teach you that? And he's like, yeah, he was a pretty good teacher. It's just, there's so many layers and it's so emotional. And I think they just nailed it in this scene. It honestly looked much more beautiful in the show than it did in the game. And they both look great. The flowers, just amazing.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful scene. And I think that it allows us all to kind of collectively take a breath and enjoy the relationship before mayhem begins. And so having this moment of connection between the two of them where they've kind of been go, go, go the entire time, allowing them to kind of just sit in this moment and be with each other. And like you said, Izzy's acting, I thought in this entire episode was really phenomenal. She is just so emotional and with just the way she is able to communicate those emotions with her eyes. There's such power in that. And the scene is just really gorgeous. And I love that, Bella is truly playing the guitar and singing and really bringing just that vulnerability to this moment, especially for Ellie, who is so guarded and so forceful. It's really a nice scene.
And also just to see like a guitar that was shielded from the bombing and from the elements and was still perfectly preserved just for her in this moment is, I hope she goes back for it.
I will say my one hiccup for this episode was that there were way too many guitars still in that place.
They were all shit though.
What about the looting? You know what I mean? People would have grabbed all that stuff in the end. Absolutely. I would have bought just the one kind of in the case still. But, that's just a minor Derek thing that I see.
I don't care. We got this scene because of it. So
no, the one guitar could have still been there. It was just all the other guitars in the place.
Yeah, it's fine. All right. So kind of going to the end of this episode, we get a fun. Really did not lie about there's just more infected in this season. Even though we're not getting them, I think, a lot throughout these episodes, we're getting a lot of them in like big sequences. So this whole scene where they're running from the wolves, we get to see, as you mentioned at the top of this episode, the intestinal chandelier of these wolf people that the Seraphites have put up there. This entire episode did such a good job of like, oh, what did Dina see in the pharmacy that like we didn't get to see? So there's just this like mystery building. And then on top of that, this tension just builds and builds and builds of them fighting these wolf people, getting out and trying to escape from them, hiding constantly for a good chunk of this episode. And then a swarm of infected going through the train that's sideways on top of it, in through it, through the windows. It's so good. It's so freaking fantastic that they were able to just build this massive set piece for this.
Yeah, these infected roots that are now running through the country are really just messing things up for everyone. And so it's almost like this carelessness of just moving through your environment. They're not even aware of it. And that's what happened in Jackson. And now that's what's happening here in Seattle. And so to see the wolves kind of set this off, I did feel happy that, Dina and Ellie had the upper hand in this moment, where they stopped, they listened, and, Dina's counting, but it goes up from more than just the 5 on her hand.
This is all I have.
Yeah. She's like, that's it. And so this scene, it's like, I felt like I needed this scene, especially between last episode and this episode. It's like, while I'm here for the human drama, at the end of it, it's a zombie story in a way, right? So I want the infected. I want that mindless hunger. That's where it gets scary, and that tension of them going through the cars of the train. I was on the edge of my seat and I really loved it. I loved feeling that again.
Yeah, they did a really good job of just building and building and building on top of that. Even just with, you think they escape the infected and then it's like the wolves are there. Or vice versa. And it's just such a good showcase of, again, what the show has to offer. I love that shot of when Ellie closes the car door and the clicker is right there. Just great. Just fantastic work all around for everybody. And then we get to kind of the ending of this episode and Ellie gets bit. She will literally, sacrifice her arm for Dina. That turnstile scene, that I did not like that. I don't like going through those turnstiles outside of the apocalypse. I always think that, in the city where you see that like there's that bar that will stop it from going the other way. I'm like, I'm going to die. Like there's no way I would possibly die. But like if I don't get out of this, somebody's just going to keep pushing me.
Oh yeah. You never know. You get turned into spaghetti.
During rush hour?
Oh
no
yeah.
way.
It's brutal. You got to be quick.
Yeah.
You got to be quick.
Yeah. So seeing Dina like not being able to push it and that runner coming right up to her and then Ellie putting her arm, which good job, Ellie, was just fantastic. And then him getting smushed. Ooh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Smooshed.
Yeah.
Smooshed.
But then we have this like really heightened moment of Dina having to do the worst thing that I think she would ever have to do in this moment, right? Like, oh, I joked about shooting you in the face, but now I'm actually going to have to do this. Like, I'm pregnant. One, I'm way far away from home, and now I have to kill the person that I love. So having that parallel of having such a beautiful moment with Take On Me, to then having to shoot her in the face is just awful. But I liked that they kind of peppered in some humor with it, with her waking up going like, with the water. I'm like, really? No sudden movements. But they both lay it out there, right? Ellie finally can tell her that she's immune. Dina finally says that she's pregnant. And then they bump. They finally get to bump. What did you think about like this kind of high tension then ending in them having sex?
I mean, I love the poetry of it, of this high tension of them running away, almost dying, Dina thinking she's losing her only ally in this moment, to then being okay. All the secrets are out. I did not see Dina being pregnant coming at all. That completely got me. I was like, sexually active. What's happening? Just
what
kidding.
else are they going to do?
True. Not learn about pride. Sure. But I liked this crescendo moment of them finally being able to release all the tension, drop, all of the. Can I finish? Drop all of these pretenses that they've had up and just finally just lay it all out there.
Yeah. It all sounded very sexual, but it all made sense.
It's called metaphors. No. But I appreciated that, but I just was like so confused with like how it kind of became insta-love in a way. And they're like, well, we're getting married and we're raising the baby together. And that's just the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like that felt a little fast to me.
Well, yeah. You know how I had mentioned, I think in the last episode, I'm like, oh, by this moment, they're kind of like already a thing. They've already bumped, which is why I said that again. They go to the library in the episode, or the part where Joel does die. It's Dina and Ellie that are traveling instead of Jesse. And they go to the library and then that's where they hook up, right? And they kind of become a thing there. So they're at the same point now, but it's like it was just shifted around a little differently. I don't know if it was as effective. Again, I liked it. I'm fully invested in their relationship. I think they both have done a great job of carrying this show so far. It was just a little jarring with like how high tension it was just building and building. And I'm not too sure, like personally, them hooking up was like the release of that tension that I was expecting or wanted. But then again, I don't know where they could have went, because what happened in the last episode, it almost ends the same way, of just both of them staring off into the distance, which I'm like, okay, it's like it's ending the same way the last one did. So I guess what I'm saying is like, where are the emotional, I guess, consequences of like the stuff that happened in the episode leading up to that moment? I get that they get to release that, but I don't know. It's like, okay, now they're at the same place. They just like love each other openly.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I don't hate it. I'm just more of like, okay, like, sure. But was that okay? I guess where else would they put it?
I just think we needed more time. They needed more time. Not even necessarily the sex, having sex with each other, but just like how we told each other our secrets, we had sex, and that means we're in love and spending the rest of our lives together.
Well, I think they were already like that. They were already ride and die, obviously. But I think with them openly being that way.
Ride or die.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like they're riding and dying.
Well. Yes, but yeah, I guess that's the right way to say that. Oh my God, I've been saying that wrong my whole life. They're riding and dying.
The more you know.
But I think they've always been that way. Maybe it just was in the show's detriment that it didn't show it that well, or wasn't that apparent. But that's the feeling I got. Because I believe they did say, even just going to Seattle, like both of them were like, yeah, I'm in this with you. And I think that they both don't care how far they're going to go as long as they do it together, because Ellie is worried. She's like, you're pregnant now with Jesse's kid. Like, you got to go back. And she's like, no, I'm going to do this with you. And they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a moment in this episode where they have kind of like have a mini conversation of like, if something happens, they kind of look at each other and they're like, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is that mentality.
Again, it's the world that they live in. So I guess would it be safer for Dina just to turn around? Also, by the way, Shimmer, I hope they go back and get Shimmer, because he's just hanging out in that music store.
There was a lot of grass there for Shimmer, so
Well, how are they going to get back?
I don't know.
They went down through a subway and came back up. Where's Shimmer?
I don't know. They're just so Shimmer's in the music store. The intestinal chandelier was at a TV station, and they are now in like a giant theater. So I don't know the map.
I don't know Seattle.
We need Dina's map.
Yeah.
And then we could figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see if Shimmer it just finds their way. Because in the game, what's funny about the game is that if you get off a Shimmer to go like explore a building or something, Shimmer just kind of like moseys kind of where you are. So if you come out a different way, Shimmer's just like, hi guys. So if they do that in the next episode, I'll be very happy because that's really funny.
Personally, I'm happy that Shimmer is in a shelter with plenty of grass and is safe for the moment. So that I like.
Right.
That I like.
Well, they wouldn't go out of their way to kill a horse. You know what I mean? Oh, infected would. Okay, so yeah, never mind. Yeah, I'm glad that Shimmer is in safety. I'm like, the humans would just steal Shimmer. They were like, cool, horse. But yeah, I guess infected would eat them if there's no...
They sure would.
Humans. Okay, yeah. So any last final thoughts?
Yeah,
I think we got everything.
Yeah, I think so. I think as far as plot is concerned, this moved things along. But I think with some of the relationship stuff, it moved it along too quickly. That's just my own personal thing. But I'm scared of Isaac. And let's leave it at that.
Yeah, I think they had to. I agree with you. I think that there was some moments, again, I don't mean to harp on the library thing. One, I just kind of sad they cut out the library. But I guess they had to move their relationship up. And this was the best time to do it. Honestly, sooner, better than later, you know? But yeah, I'm very excited. Again, this whole cast, I think Oscar Isaac, oh my God. Jeffrey Wright, his name's Isaac, so I don't know. Jeffrey Wright is the only voice actor from the show to come in and play the character that they voiced, because he voiced Isaac in the game. We have other people like Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker and stuff. They came back as other characters. Same thing with the woman that voiced Abby. So I think he's the only one that came back.
Very cool.
Also, HBO loves him, so it makes sense.
And I love him.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so see you very soon for Doctor Who if you've been following us with that. That's episode 5. Or just next week if you're just following our Last of Us episodes. Yeah, episode 5 next week.
All right. Let us know what you thought of episode 4, and we'll see you on the next one.
Almost done.
Goodbye.
Bye.